Hi there, and welcome to my little recording practice studio space. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Bach, J S Bach, because I'm just looking at the Prelude, Fugue and Allegro, which is a lute suite that was written by Bach. Let me show you the cover. So there we are, Oxford guitar music. And this one is actually transcribed by Hector Quine or Hector Quinn for the guitar, because obviously Bach wrote this for the lute because nobody was really playing guitar. I mean, there was a few ancestors of the guitar, and of course the lute is one of the ancestors of the guitar, but guitar wasn't really a serious instrument till much later. Okay. So, but before I do, I would just like to say, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, because it makes such a big difference. Because if you don't have enough subscribers on YouTube, and I don't, then you don't make any money from YouTube. So you make money for YouTube, but not from YouTube. And it doesn't really hurt, does it? You can just press subscribe, and then you can even press that little notification bell thing, and then you'll even know if I make a new video. I'm not a spam merchant. I'm not somebody that's going to be spamming you a lot, even if I knew how. I don't like spam anyway. So, Prelude, Fugue and Allegro. Oh, the other thing you can also do is follow my Patreon page. I'm going to put the whole Prelude, Fugue and Allegro on there in due course, and also some in-depth discussions about how I've approached playing it. Okay, so thank you for that. I hate saying all that stuff at the beginning of my videos, which is why I normally don't, and which is why I probably don't have enough YouTube subscribers right now. Maybe you're watching this in the future and I've got thousands, and you're thinking, my God, how many does he want? I don't know. Anyway, so Bach, I don't know if any of you used to watch The Twilight Zone, but it was a big hit with us when we were kids, teenagers growing up. In one episode of The Twilight Zone, a man comes into his dining room and he finds an alien from another planet. Aliens are generally from other planets. There in his dining room, and the alien is playing Bach. He's reading the music, and he's playing Bach from the music, and the man is very surprised, as you would be. I mean, you'd expect him to be surprised because it was an alien in his living room, but he was surprised, not that it was an alien, but it was an alien playing Bach. And the alien said, well, it's just pure mathematics, isn't it? Well, I don't know. We can talk about that. Is it pure mathematics or not? This is part of the whole way we are used to looking at Bach. I read a novel recently, and there's a female cellist in the novel, and sadly I can't remember the name of the novel, but she says, oh, Bach is just another old man telling me what to do. So we have this picture of this guy who's writing all this stuff. It's intensely mathematical, it's intensely intellectual. I got this at music college too, that, in the Baroque era, you see the same themes and pieces of music coming back on different instruments for somebody, the partita comes back as the violin concerto or whatever. And therefore these guys were not interested in the instrument itself and the tonal qualities. They were just interested in the mathematical progression of notes and harmonies and such like. And I thought that myself. I hated Bach when I was learning to play the guitar. I much prefer to play Tarrega and Ferdinando Sor and Carulli and these guys that wrote for the guitar. And the music was written from the instrument rather than just written in a sort of realm of abstraction and then given to us to make into music, or to try and to make into music. I know that wind players like playing the flute partita, and they say, well, where are we supposed to breathe? Bach wasn't really thinking that way. So is it pure mathematics? Well, I don't know that it is. I mean, what is pure mathematics, really? I certainly remember the maths that I did at school was a lot harder than any music theory that I've done since. Really, I mean, we can see there's a whole load of, we can see the chord progressions, we can see the, or hear, well, in fact we can see, I'm looking at the page now and I can see the patterns, I can see the sequences, and people recognizing patterns and sequences is that very particular view of the world. Whether the numbers were here first or whether the numbers are the way that we choose to understand the world is something that people a lot smarter than me are very busy discussing still. I personally feel that the numbers and maths is a way of describing the world. So I'm not one of these people that thinks that we live in a computer simulation, and I think it's really a symptom of the fact that the digital age that we live in is tending to make us understand the world that way. Isaac Newton thought that the universe was like a big clockwork machine because clockwork was the new thing. So the universe was a digital machine. It had been wound up by somebody, and the big question was who wound it up, and would it just proceed until it ran out of energy? Now we're going, it's all numbers and ones, and we can see the code, and we've got to get to the bottom of the code, and then we can understand the nature of reality. Personally, I don't think we'll ever understand the nature of reality, the nature of consciousness, existence, because we are part of it. So it's almost like trying to stand outside yourself and look at yourself. And in that spirit, and this is not just a transgression, this is in that spirit, I think there's a lot more to Bach than just that. That intellectual, mathematical understanding. I'm going to play one little phrase from this piece to show you what I mean. Now, I haven't learnt this piece. I'm looking through it, and the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I'm playing it really slowly still. I'm still learning it, and obviously you'll hear it at full speed eventually. But when you play Bach slowly, then you really get into the harmonies and the melodies, and you get much more of an idea of what he's aiming at. I think people very often play Bach too fast. You hear Glenn Gould or something like that, and it really does sound like a clockwork machine. It's just like you feel you're being assailed by all these notes. Whereas when you listen to, for example, this little piece here, for me, that seems very human, very emotional. This progression could be the Beatles. And then this beautiful G minor. And I hear a lot of people play that sforzando, Horrible. I don't think it should be played that way, I think. Such a poignant moment. Poignant is the word that springs to mind when I hear that G minor. Play it really quietly. I noticed that Anna Vivodek, I'm not sure if that pronunciation is right, she plays it like that, and it's so beautiful to hear her do it, because suddenly you're hearing this poignance rather than this sort of bombast. And then we've got this. And then this. It's like a jazz chord, So I'm playing it with my thumb, with the flesh. I'm playing it close to the neck, because you're not expecting it. You're not expecting to hear, was it a D6/9 chord suddenly appearing in the middle of all that systemic sort of working out. And then we've got the pause on the G sharp. And then it's kind of flamenco. Yeah. And then back home, back to D. And then we've got something a little bit like an opening of the first theme, which I played at the beginning. Now another thing we can look at here is the bass notes. So to begin with, this the pull-off there, Bach wouldn't have written a pull-off, he would have just written the notes. The pull-off is added by Hector Quine. Now my old guitar teacher, he studied under Hector Quine at the, not literally obviously, at the Royal College, and he said he was a very boring man. That might be so, but then my guitar teacher was a very boring man too, so maybe they just didn't really understand each other properly, because it's a very elegant and eloquent transcription that he's done here, in the way that he's got round the differences between the lute and the guitar, because the guitar obviously doesn't go as deep as the lute, so some of these notes would have been an octave lower, but he's kept the shape of the bass line very well. But so it starts with this open D, because obviously we're tuned down to D, and it's written as a quaver, so you often hear people play it like this. No, not like that, but which to me is horrible. I mean, I can hear it, like if you're playing it on the cello, you have no option but to leave that note. You wouldn't be able to keep that note droning underneath, but to me it just sounds so much nicer to just hear that D underneath and hear those notes against the D. And then we've got this all pulgar, all thumb, which again sounds almost flamenco, that little bit. Okay, so again, it's really interesting to look closely at the way somebody has edited it and done the fingering for it, because a lot of these fingerings I wouldn't have done it this way, but I've learned to do it this way, and actually there's some things which, even as I'm beginning to learn to play it, because as you can hear I can't really play it yet, there are moments where it's making my hand move in a way that it doesn't naturally move, and yet it's getting sounds that I wouldn't normally hear. So I think don't be too quick to go and re-finger everything. If somebody else has made a fingering, get to know it and try it first, because you know they could be right and you could learn something. So here's a case in point. So it'll be minor here in bar 5. Now he's used the open B, whereas I would have done that, more of a kind of jazz approach, which is to pull off the open B and then, not pull off the open B, pull off the B on the G string and then go back onto the same note. But what you lose there is that you don't hear the B, the F sharp and the A all ringing together, which is a really lovely little moment. Again, a beautiful thumb. It just really separates that. It's like, now it's time the bass to talk. Now that B would be an octave lower on the lute, which again, I'm speeding it up there because that's a very sort of romantic approach to it. And, you know, we were always taught, oh, the Baroque players, they weren't romantic because we put it in the box. We've got the Baroque players and we've got the classical players and composers and then the Baroque and then the romantic. And that means that you must not put any romance into the way that you play Baroque music. And I think that's a mistake because they were human. You know, however different they were culturally or whatever, you can still sense the emotional involvement in the music. And I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make here, that we shouldn't see Bach as you know, highly academic, intellectual, mathematical figure, but actually somebody with a great deal of spiritual and emotional engagement in what they were doing. All right. So, oh yeah, and there's a couple of other things here that I was going to mention before I started speeding up. Yes, where? Oh yeah. Okay, so here we've got this on bar, was it 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, bar 11. Got a pull off with a little finger there. Now that's a bit challenging. He doesn't hammer back on, he uses the open E. So put the work into that because it's worth it to get that pull off really nice and clean. And also, this is one of the reasons that classical guitarists tend to play with a more of an upright position in the neck. Because if you're one of these Keith Richards guys and you play down by your waist, by your hips, and you know, thumb over the top and all that, it's very hard to use that little finger, use that pinky finger on the bass string. So I would suggest that this more upright position is better. You probably notice I've actually got my guitar on the other leg. Classical players very often play on this leg. Flamenco players tend to play on this leg, but they don't have this nice little support thing that I've got. They just have to hold the guitar against their leg with their own strength, with their own arm, which is very manly. Classical players don't have to worry about being manly so much. We just put the guitar there and try and avoid having to go to the osteopath too often. I say we. Okay. So, yeah. Work on that pull off. Maybe you're not struggling with it. Maybe it's just me. Of the main theme, but in a different key. See, I'm playing it really slowly, and at the moment quite romantically. So I'm really loving this sort of the way that the phrases sound like water coming down a mountainside. There's a sort of a pause between each new phrase starting. new stream coming out of the mountain is just like another little phrase, another little opening. So yeah, I'm starting off slow. I'm speeding up. I'm not doing it a lot. I'm not. It's not Beethoven, Brahms. You know, I'm just giving it just a little bit of that. And I think it's all about balance, isn't it? It's all about finding the right balance between being metronomic and being romantic, or being, you know, human. Of course, you know, Bach wouldn't have had a metronome because metronome wasn't invented till 1815, so we don't really know how fast he intended a lot of this stuff to go. As Chris Thiele says, a lot of the forms, not the prelude, but you know, we look at the andantes and minuets and things like that. They're actually dances. So you know, it's something to bear in mind also, that we're playing a dance. We're not just playing like a ticker tape collection of notes. We're playing something with rhythm and with phrasing and with humanity. So anyway, in a couple of weeks I'm going to post this whole thing on my Patreon page, and I'll definitely post at least the Prelude or the Allegro on my YouTube page. So you can follow me for free on the Patreon page, or you can buy me a cup of coffee once a month, which is like $3, or in fact that's even half a cup of coffee, because I live in Melbourne and people are very serious about their coffee and it's pretty expensive. All right, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe and tell me what you think, and I will try and learn the rest of this piece for you. All right, see you next time. Bye bye.